Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Adventures with Kramer. So on this one, I just got a recent email talking about an update to the terms of service, and I wish that I had had paper copies of the old terms of service to be able to try and compare and see what was actually different in some of the fine print. But this email was sent today on January 6th, and it was, hey, if you agree to keep using this past January 6th, then you've agreed to all these terms. So I figured, you know what, it's about time I start looking at some of this in a little bit more detail. So here's the email that I got, just saying that they've been making improvements to the network, which is nice. And then their updates to the Starlink service terms. The privacy policy, though, is really the only one that I've seen a recent change on, according to their dates that they have on their website, saying like a January 1st of 2021. Some software license use terms. They say different additional payment options. I didn't see anything different on the portal for that, but just something to try and help keep in mind. And again, this just came on January 6th, today, and it goes into effect today, which is weird that they can just be like, oh, hey, this goes into effect today. We sent it to you today. So if you keep using this after that, you've now accepted it. So okay, so there is a lot of different pieces to look at, and best way I figured is just try and start looking at some of the different spots and go from there. I did not print off all this stuff to be able to try and see what was different from what was before because I don't have copies of what was before. So just try and see what stuff kind of stands out as we go. But there, man, there's a lot. There's a lot of legalese on here. So I guess if we're looking on here, the first thing that kind of pops up on the email is talking about their service terms, the fact that this is a residential use only kind of thing here. So if you're hoping to use this for a business, that's not what they're actually considering that for. It's part of the warranty. So you start talking about the fact that all this is like non-transferable. It is yours. You're required. You have to set and take care of it, and um, which is one thing that I don't like though on some of the payment stuff is that starting 14 days after SpaceX ships you your Starlink, um, they can start charging you uh, on a monthly recurring basis starting 14 days after SpaceX ships your Starlink. Now, even though in another spot on here, it can end up taking upwards on like Starlink's website right now 4 weeks to actually get Starlink delivered to your house because of everything that's going on. I don't know about that. Um, and they did allow more different payment stuff. Now I went to the portal to try and see if there's anything else that kind of showed up. And so all we have showing here now is just ACH payments, credit or debit cards where available. Um, and that's the only kind of different thing that I'm seeing on here. So there was nothing else that looked different. No, like saying the specific credit cards or not showing any like PayPal type stuff or anything like that. So that's all we kind of have so far to work off with for payment methods. Um, Shipping and handling can't be refunded. A lot of that stuff seems familiar. Taxes, fees, and surcharges, payment disputes, and suspended services. There's a lot of this in multiple different spots that they can just cancel their service at any time for any reason, and they don't have to tell you why. Um, and when you install it, it is completely up to you. They make no guarantees of anything they do, no matter whatever kits that they have. You install this and you do a permanent installation and you cause damage to your roof, it's your own fault for doing it. Um, they make no warranty on the installation, and so that's just something to help try and keep in mind. They might include a lot of different like stuff to help seal off and things like that, but it leaks. That's on you, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I worried about doing the volcano roof mount and actually drilling into my roof is because you put a big old dish like that up on the roof and you have high winds, it's going to wiggle. It's no different than any type of like all the people putting solar panels on their roofs. Those things will move and they will leak. Like it's going to happen. And so I don't know. I just not quite sure. That's why I use the Ridgeline roof mount. Um, and then there's a lot of other different links that it's going to go to. I'm just going to try and go through all of this here first, and then kind of go. I have what 6 or 7 different tabs open right now of all the stuff going on, and so and they can change any of this stuff at any given time. I got this email today that said, "Hey, if you're continuing to use this today, which was January 6th, even though the email got sent today, January 6th, then you agreed to our rules and regulations, and that's it." And so, and I'm already past any type of a time frame to where, yeah, I don't know. I didn't like that. So, and they could even just pull a little pop-up window whenever you go onto your Starlink website, and that is somehow you confirming that you are agreeing to those rules and regulations. I do like this is still something similar. I mean, you do have that 30-day refund at the very beginning if it's something that, hey, you weren't able to try and get it, and due to like any type of like different view issues or things like that. So at least it's nice to be able to get that return policy though. After you go beyond that 30 days though, they do kind of do a prorate. Um, but you have to have a substantial change in whatever happens to be able to try and start getting some of that prorated version back. And so substantial change means they either jacked up the price by over 50% per month or performance goals have dropped, which is weird because if they can change at any point in time the Starlink specifications that say how much speed you're supposed to be getting, then they can automatically change it no matter what. So this can never happen. And so you can never get a refund. I don't like this. I don't like this section 3.4 very much at all, especially after seeing what it says in Starlink specifications. Um, and I guess I'll jump over to that one here in just a second. Not that one. Here we go. Starlink specifications. The reason why I'm coming over to here right now is because that initial piece that came from the email whenever I first was like signed up for this said the speeds of 50 to 150 megabits per second. They have now dropped that, and I have seen download speeds have been dropping. Download speeds are now only up to 100 megabits per second. They are loading the system. There is more and more people getting added on, and they are dropping it. So from what I was initially told was that they're not giving this broad range now. Now they're putting it right at 100. It was 50 to 150 megabits per second, and I was constantly seeing 150 megabits per second early on. It is dropping. I am not getting that high 150 like I used to. Um, so that's just something to try and keep in mind. Let's go back to that initial terms of service. Limited warranty. It's still under um, in the beta test phase and anything like that. So what they're talking about. Let's see here. Bunch of stuff that I'm not sure where they're going at with. Basically, if you manually try and like shove that antenna and you break it, it's your own fault. They're not going to pay for it or fix it, and any type of other normal wear and tear. A whole lot of stuff to really just cover them in every way, shape, or form, which is, I mean, I guess good for them, but also super frustrating at the same time, because this is so much stuff to try and have to go through. I wish there was a way to try and simplify this down. Um, yeah, there's privacy policy stuff I'll try looking at, acceptable use policy stuff. You can't resell. Um, you have to get some other type of an agreement with SpaceX, so you can't like take this, make internet, and try and resell internet off to other people around you to offer them internet. It doesn't work. It's not like you can like it's you can't be like renting a house, like buy a house and then re-rent off separate rooms or something like that to try and sublet it or something like that. And basically, you pay for everything for Starlink. You have anything that happens and you try to go against them on stuff, you just held them harmless on everything for all damages, all costs, everything on there, even all their attorney's fees. Ugh, that's not encouraging. Um, I can't give this kit or sell it to anybody else without the consent of SpaceX. And they talk about no way to be able to try and get consent for SpaceX. And they can figure out who they want to give it to at any time, even though whenever you buy SpaceX, they say that they give you the title to it. Although they can take that title away from you anytime. It's like buying a car, but they can take the car away from you and give it to somebody else. Um, and they can, without any type of notice, just cancel your account. And for some of them, don't be wrong, they are very justifiable reasons of like doing some like bad like hacking type stuff and all kinds of things like that, or doing definitely inappropriate things. And um, it's yeah, it's just something you gotta. It makes sense, and just basically don't do stupid stuff. Uh, but then you withdraw of your consent to allow SpaceX to use your personal data. And so there's a lot of different data, and we'll be looking at that here in a little bit, that SpaceX is able to set and collect and take and give to a whole bunch of people. And so let's see here, governing law. Is this another one of the Mars types pieces happening here? Orbit the planet Earth or the moon, terms of disputes governed by accordance to the state of California in the United States for stuff on Mars via Starship or other spacecraft. Recognize Mars as a free planet that no Earth-based government has authority over Martian activities. I mean, this one I think is hilarious, but at the same time, though, it helps us start setting precedents for something happening on Mars and to try and set Mars up as its own independent and not being ruled by Earth, which I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. At least the nice, funniest slash nice thing on any of this stuff so far. People have seen that quite a ways back. Disputes, you have to definitely make sure you have to actually file a dispute with them first if you do have a dispute before any type of arbitration can even happen. If you do, this is the actual form for being able to fill it out: name, account, service address, email, phone number, description of anything that happened or whatever was going on, and send all that stuff to SpaceX to be able to help out. And then if they don't resolve it within 60 days, then you can actually start doing arbitration up above, and you and SpaceX each waive any and all rights to have a court or jury hear or decide any disputes. So you can't have a court or jury help out in this. It's you've given up that right by using Starlink to have. Wow. Yep. And then hey, they hit you with fees all over again, just like attorney fees up above. So if the arbitrator finds your claim is frivolous or brought for an improper purpose, may seek reimbursement. Oh, okay. So that makes sense. I mean, yeah, if you did something stupid, then they try and help to get those fees back from you. That makes sense. Yep. What else do we have here? Eligibility. This is the one that I just did not even see. I have looked at this in the past. I just did not pay attention to this. That I need to keep records, and I will be trying to set print copies of all these different pieces that I can, because I do want to be able to know and track and see what's the difference, which is frustrating because as important as it is to keep copies of this, if they change it, and just like today, I went in there tomorrow and I didn't agree with whatever the different changes were, it's too late. I continue to keep using Starlink. I would have to cancel my Starlink right now in order to not agree with whatever is happening. And man. So that is some of the terms of service. We looked at the notice of dispute. So then the acceptable use policy, we started looking at some other stuff here. So then what do we have here? I was reading some of this before. So this is some of the stuff that if you violate any different pieces, then that's where they can just cancel your internet no matter what. You're done. You don't get it anymore. No refunds, nothing like that. Which makes sense. I mean, accessing, like trying to basically like hack other different computers or SpaceX or any of that stuff, yeah, they're going to cancel and stop you. Any type of uninvited communication data, surface attacks, interrupting, um, different other mail, viruses, like harmful codes, things like that, other types of hacking, defamatory, fraudulent, obscene, or deceptive. So I'm not sure where they're able to defamatory or fraudulent. I mean, I guess some of those ones I just who determines what's what on some of those ones. Um, Violating different parts of SpaceX, property rights, any type of conduct that's harmful. Um, Using services Starlink to violate SpaceX rule, policy, or guideline. Uh, Transmission of all kinds of like obscene stuff, cruel things, any type of thing that promotes hatred, racism, which that makes sense. Um, can't be doing stupid stuff like that. And then violating some type of international trade, which I mean it is. It's like, hey, just don't do a bunch of stupid things. It's like, do you has to be spelled out for people. It's just part of like the legalese thing that has to be done. And intellectual property rights of third parties. Don't know. Excessive use of network resources. Ha. So this one right here. When I first read the top piece and when I first read this one, I understood it as basically you use the internet too much, they can cancel you for no other reason but just that. But they don't specify how much is too much. The other stuff afterwards, though, I do get like, okay, if you're distributing viruses, other like code, or they'll restrict or suspend it. But like it says excessive use of network resources. So I mean, can that also be worded as like, hey, you downloaded too much, so we're gonna cut down your speeds? Like that's what I'm seeing. This also can be started to be looked at. Let me know in the comments if you think that as well. Um, Acceptable use, enforcement, a lot of the same stuff. Reserve the rights to revise, amend, modify any of this stuff at any time, and um, if you do not wish to continue service after change, you may terminate services at any time. But if you terminate it, then you no longer have it, and for some of the different reasons, doesn't mean you're going to get a refund. So I don't know. Beta phase, though, this is where we're looking at the speeds and how those have changed. And so all this is considered under development. And there is one thing, I'm not sure if it's on this slide or not, that kind of worried me because it basically, here it is right down below here. So I'll come back up a little bit. But, okay, so any of this stuff is just basically don't set and add a whole bunch of other stuff into there, more cables or jumper cables. They can't guarantee any of the stuff that's happening there. And there's a lot of different things that you could do that could end up making it to where it doesn't work. So, I don't know, you just got to be careful with it. And let's see here. This is the one that I worry about. At the time of delivery, the Starlink kit should be able to connect customers to services and remain intact and operable for a minimum of 12 months. So they really only guarantee this thing to work for a year. Is what that's, to me, that's what that's saying. So minimum of 12 months. Obviously, it'd be nice if it worked longer, but they're saying that they only like, well, it'll work for a year after you get it. And they're also being like, well, there's going to be newer stuff that's going to come out that you'll need to end up eventually getting because the old stuff is going to be obsolete. Yay! So that's great. And the routers can be configured slightly right now, but right now SpaceX does a lot of that stuff, and so you have just real basic like some features that you can do, and so that's just because this is beta phase, so it'll be interesting to see what it does in the future. But any of this stuff that they say for stated speeds, they're not guaranteed at all. So even though the initial email said, oh yeah, we're trying to give you the 50 to 150 megabits per second, they could drop it all the way down and it's not guaranteed. And any of these different speeds are actually going to be dropping even more during usage hours. And as they continue to keep adding more and more people on, even though they're not sending up enough satellites to help compensate it for it at the same time. So, yay for that. Try not to be super pessimistic, but it's just some of the different stuff. The privacy policy is where I start getting a little bit more worried because when you first look at the privacy policy, you see just, oh, okay, there's like 6, 7 different pieces. And it's like, oh, we collect different things from you and we only use it for specific business purposes related to this. And we don't share your personal information, but we may share it with some people. So you don't sell it, but you'll still just give it away to other people. They do protect it, but they can't guarantee any of that security on there. Um, so that's great. That who knows how detailed that is that's happening. Hopefully, it should be just fine. Um, you can contact them to be able to try and have certain rights of things limited. They don't tell you what you can or can't limit. Just that you have to get a hold of here, and they help to like figure out whether or not you can. So that's great. But they collect a lot of stuff, and so just a lot of these bolded terms are going to be showing up in the second one here. So your first, last name, any of that stuff, where you live, your email address, phone numbers, profiles, passwords, purchases, any type of service requests, feedback, survey responses, all that marketing stuff that they've done to you, all that's recorded. Any financial data for all the different credit cards, that's all being recorded. Any transactions on stuff, any type of technical detail from all your different computer and all the different stuff going through Starlink, all that's being recorded. And then any other type of technical data through Wi-Fi, latency, any of that stuff, IP addresses, all being recorded too. And some of the stuff, like I get, like they have to help provide it for like government like type pieces and some of those things. And so they take that identity and that contact profile financial, and it's what they do for being able to help like collecting terms of service and like um, some of those things to like following different government requests and things like that on data and what's happening. It'll be interesting to see how far different government requests ends up going in the future. And then they try and help give out, they put it in as surveys to help out and learn more information on there on news, which makes sense, but then I'm not sure why some of the transaction data needs to go in with that. And they share that with their service providers. And some of this, I can't tell if on what's happening with his privacy policy is that they are starting to set it up, is what it feels like, that any of this information can be automatically changed over. Where was it at here? Um, Man, I remember reading it that it was basically if it's sold to another company, all your information goes to another company. And so I don't know if some of this, because this is the most recent update, is the privacy policy on January 1st, and they're only now telling people on January 6th. Is I keep hearing all that different talk on like making that company X that has every other, what, SpaceX and Starlink and Tesla all in one main company there. If some of that is the reason why, is because whether or not that's going to be a major buyout type thing that's going to happen to be able to put all those companies back under a new company of company X, which that will be interesting. I did read that somewhere on here and I just can't find it right now as I'm recording this. So sorry about that, but here we go. Business transfers. So if we sell, merge, or reorganize our company, we expect that the personal information we've collected will be transferred to the surviving or acquiring entity according to the applicable law. So whatever information they have is now going to be given to somebody else, and hopefully some good still terms of service with the other company. Um, Software license, basically just not hacking it, and anything that's like, if you do, you'll get in trouble. You can't try and reverse engineer any of their different data or trying to get any of the source code stuff. You get in trouble if you do. They do have some stuff that's open source, and that's stuff that you have to try and get a hold of them to be able to try and work on that. And you can request access for the open source components through Starlink. Um, Otherwise, though, yeah, that is a lot of the major updates that have been happening.